North Central Ohio and beyond, wherever you're watching, we're glad to have you here on the Sports Mix. My name is Brian Skowronski, and I've got a couple of great guests with me here tonight. Travis Berardi from our own OH.Report family, along with Mansfield News Journal writer Jake Furr. And gentlemen, I don't want to waste no time. I just want to get right into it. So many sports, now that they are back, are happening right here in our area. And I want to hear about the three bigged performances that you saw all week. Jake, we'll let you go first.
I got to give a big shout out to Luke Wabaki from Clear Fork last night. Actually, he had 2 goals, 4 assists in a 10-1 win over Massillon. I love the goal scorers, but you know what? It takes a special player to kind of bring out those assists and share the love. So those 4 assists, man, that kind of jumped out to me. Another soccer player, Abby Little from Mansfield Christian. She had 4 goals and an 8-0 win over Loudonville. She is the leading goal scorer right now in the area.
Crazy.
Sophomore, leading goal scorer when we have so much huge talent here in Richland County by itself. That's a huge accomplishment. She already has a hat trick, has a 4-goal game.
Wow.
Big time player right there who's leading the area. So my final one is Amar Davis from Mansfield Senior. 6 catches, 189 yards and a touchdown. Freshman. Just coming out, and I don't know if you'd have to look really far back just to see if there was a better freshman debut in Mansfield Senior Tigers history, because that was a pretty big performance.
That may be it. Yeah, you think about all the athletes that have come through there. A lot of times the freshmen don't even get a chance to play at the varsity level in their first year, of course. So I think that may be one for the history books.
Big time.
Travis, what about you?
Well, Brian, my number one performer, my boy down at Northmore, Max Lower, 16 carries, $125, 2 touchdowns, 2 two-point conversion runs, all in the first half. He sat out the second half because they were up 34-0. This kid is a wrecking ball. Once he gets through that original defensive line, it is all downhill from there. You saw on the Saturday Pigskin Monday Night Football edition, he just went off, big 65-yard touchdown run. The kid can do it all. He's in the Wildcat formation. He can be sidecar left or right beside Cortez. Just a big player. My number 2 performer, Taylor Huff, going up to Findlay. Tough game up there, tough match. He scores 2 first-half goals, propels them to the 2-1 victory. And right now, she's probably scoring a couple more goals against Mansfield Senior as we speak. They're playing right now. Make sure to watch for those highlights on the OH.Report. We have the dynamic duo of G-Man and Storm there. And then my number 3, like Jake said, Amar Davis. We thought Gross was going to go off possibly, but then he comes out, picks up some of the slack, and he's really showing out in his freshman debut. So that's my top 3.
All right, I'm also going to piggyback off Jake Furr, and I'm going to go with Abby Little at number 3 on my big 3. 4 goals is an awesome accomplishment, but for a sophomore, man, I don't care about the competition. When you find the back of the net that many times and to be the leading scorer in the area, I thought that was pretty darn special. At number 2, I got Blaine Bowman of Shelby. Almost 200 receiving yards as a junior, really helped out the offense and the new quarterback stepping in for the first time, Marshall Shepard. 2 touchdowns as well, so I thought Blaine Bowman was big all night long, really carried the Whippets to that victory. But at number 1 for me, I'm going to mix it up. I'm going to go off the radar a little bit, and I'm going to go with the coach, and I'm going to go with Scott Spittler of Lucas. Going on the road at the Valley. Was supposed to be a home game for them at Bob Wine. No, they switch it last minute so that they can accommodate more fans. So he has to go into a place where they've won about 30 games over the last 3 seasons. Dave Carroll's really got that machine, that engine running smoothly, and they come out with a win. Had a few kids out even that were starters with some illness. So Scott Spittler, my number 1 in the big 3. Really impressed what we saw from the Cubs. Let's keep talking about football then. And how about some surprises? How about, I think we're going to call it the number 1 stunner of the week. What was it for you, Jake?
The biggest one that I can think of, just off the top of my head, is the Galleon falling to River Valley. What was it, 20-19?
Yeah.
Losing by 1 point, I think they missed, or they had an extra point blocked. But that was, Galleon came into this season with very high MOAC hopes. And, just to drop that first one, that's kind of tough to deal with. But I think they're going to rebound this week. But yeah, that game kind of stunned me a little bit. I know a lot of people will say Mansfield Senior fall into West Holmes, but just that first loss by Galleon, that was kind of tough to swallow. But I think they'll bounce back.
Trav?
The overall Shelby Ontario game. Most thought Shelby was going to be cruise control. They were going to win by a few more touchdowns. They did win 28-14, but Owen Fisher really didn't get going till late. I still think he's going to have a breakout season this year. much like he did last year. But Ontario really stuck with them. They went down 21-0, I believe, scored twice, had a chance to tie it up, but turned the ball over late. So Ontario, I think they're ahead of what we thought they would be to start the season, and Shelby maybe a little bit behind, but I can see now that both these teams could be, going towards a successful at least 6-game season and possibly a couple wins in the playoffs, at least for Ontario. Shelby, they could still, correct some of those offensive woes, bounce back from a couple injuries taken in that game, and still make a run that people think they're going to do.
Yeah, I gotta say, Jake, and you already mentioned it, the Mansfield senior score, to me, dude, that was shocking. They go on the road, and I didn't know that they would necessarily win that game. Tough place to play up there in Millersburg, and I'm told that the Knights are much improved from the season ago. They had a lot of young kids that are now filling into their varsity roles. But man, for the Tigers to get a 56 burger dropped on them, right. I don't think they gave up that many points the entire season all year if you calculate that. So the fact they had a running clock, went all the way to the D3 championship game last week, or last year, I mean, that was absolutely stunning for me to see that score. Let's talk about some volleyball and take it onto the hardwood and in the court indoors. What are you guys seeing from the ladies out there? Trav, I know that you've called a few matches. Who do you like right now in area volleyball?
Well, I mean, Clear Fork was 3-0. River Valley comes in at 1-1, knocks them off. River Valley looked pretty impressive a couple nights ago at Clear Fork. Crestview, they were undefeated, lost to a tough St. Paul team. So it's tough to see that. You have Ontario, Lexington. Usually Ontario is going to be a better squad this year. Tonight I'll be calling Clear Fork Galleon, so I can't wait to see what Galleon has to offer. Shelby as well. A lot of solid talent around here, but once we get into that conference schedule, which is starting right about now, it's going to be tough to see if any of these teams can be ahead of the rest, because it seems like each other's beating each other up.
Who's some of the top teams in your mind, Jake?
Right now, it's obviously the Ontario Lady Warriors. They're undefeated right now, and Galleon. I think those two teams are kind of head-to-head right now. Galleon lost, I believe, a couple games early in the season that they probably shouldn't have, but they'll get rolling and perform pretty well. But Ontario's starting their conference schedule here pretty soon. I know they have Lexington this weekend, which is a big rivalry game. So we'll see where they are coming up here pretty soon. But they're rolling right now. They haven't lost a set yet. So
wow.
Ontario's pretty good. Crestview's always good, but then they ran into St. Paul last night and kind of got knocked down a peg because it kind of wasn't close. But we'll just see how they grow throughout the season. I know it's a pretty early start right now, so we'll see what goes on. But right now, Ontario's just they're the cream of the crop, and you got to give them props for being undefeated still.
Yeah, it's going to be an awesome match on Saturday when they have to take on Lexington. So definitely keep your eyes on that one. And for me, Crestview losing to St. Paul and getting swept actually was a big surprise. I got an opportunity to see them in person once. We'll get to see them quite a few more times here as the season plays out. But dude, they got a talent pretty much all over the floor. They have some pretty good subs that can rotate in as well. So that I did not see coming. And then Galleon tonight, when you're calling that match, I'm going to be tuned in live and free right here on the OH.Report to see what the Tigers can offer. And can Clear Fork, can they come back from their first loss of the season from a couple of nights ago?
Yeah, and you know what? Clear Fork, it was a tough first set. They really weren't in that first set. The second set that you called, they fought back towards the end. Third set, they won. Fourth set, it was close, and then River Valley pulled away late. So once that match went into the later sets, it seemed like Clear Fork finally figured things out. So can they ride from that late set momentum into this one against Galleon, or can Galleon just steamroll teams like they've been doing so far this year?
We're going to find out tonight. How about the best of the rest, if you will? Let's talk about the Richland County cross country meet, Jake. Some, I guess, not surprising results out there. Some of the kids we thought would dominate kind of did.
Yeah, I mean, this was kind of the first year in a while that Lexington and Ontario and everybody kind of went to that meet because the preseason meet was canceled down there, and then Seneca East was also canceled, which are the bigger meets. So it was great to see everybody in Richland County actually in one spot, and running. But Holly Hamilton ran away with the girls' race. Lily Weeks was second, I believe. Bree Trump-Hauer was third. So, I mean, and when we're coming in like that, that's the matchup we want to see kind of the entire season.
Sure.
We'd like to see it in a huge setting, but with the restrictions that's going on, we get what we get right now. But yeah, we kind of expected that. But then you know, in the boys race, we weren't sure who to get. We didn't have Caleb Brown this year.
Right.
We didn't have that automatic winner that we were thinking. But Huck Finnegan from Shelby kind of kept this Shelby streak going and took that race pretty handily. Actually, he won it by, I believe, pretty close to 30 seconds. He was way out ahead of everybody. So sophomore kid, you know, we got some really good young talent in this area, but he came out and showed what he had and you know, impressed a lot of people. But you know, cross country season, man, it's one of the best sports that we have in this area. But you know, we're not going to see that because all these big meets are getting canceled. They're running a lot of quads, they're running a lot of tries, and you just don't really see that, you know, those amazing numbers, that amazing competition that we're used to seeing. But you know, hopefully we have a postseason. I know there's a lot of talk about what we're going to do this postseason because there's I believe it's like 150 limit for a race for that many runners, and you know, a state meet usually has 180 kids. District's even bigger, regional's even bigger. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I mean, I want to see some bigger meets, some competition between these kids to see those times really drop, because you run faster when you have competition against you. So, but yeah, cross country, man, I really hope that's a sport that we get to see finish out.
Yeah, no question, especially on the girls' side this year. I mean, like a lot of the top talent in the state calls Richland County home right now. So it will be interesting to see the development. How do they progress? The fact that they can't go to these big meets and get to go against some of the other top competitors from around the state, kind of a lot of home cooking, and like you said, maybe just 4 other teams all competing in one match. So yeah, we'll see if the times keep getting better or if they're relatively untested when they get to the postseason, whatever that's going to look like.
Right.
All right, guys, go ahead and stay put. We are now going to throw it over to the soccer locker, where I'm going to head. Jesse Ryder standing by. Welcome inside of the soccer locker, where it kind of smells like you would expect, but you're about to get brighter with Ryder. That's right, Jesse Ryder, former Mansfield Christian soccer coach turned youth coach and just overall great analyst for the soccer game. Jesse, you've been calling games with me. You've been seeing a lot of kids out on the pitch at the high school level. Give me your big overarching view of what you see in the area.
Sure, absolutely. I think there's a little bit of everything right now. There is that ability that people are just excited to play soccer right now. The people are just, you know, they're out there, the teams are competing against other teams and from other schools, and so that's good, right? Everybody's excited about that. I think what we're seeing right now is a lot of the teams did not have a lot of scrimmages against other programs, and sometimes if your numbers don't allow you to have scrimmages or 11 on 11, it could be a long kind of preseason to get to where you're at now. So I think what we see right now is a little bit of inconsistent soccer. There are moments where we're seeing really good things from really good teams, and there are moments where we're seeing maybe some not quite consistent things from really good teams. But overall, I think we have a chance at the end of the year, we're going to see some local teams make some big runs into the tournament.
And we do have a few teams that are starting to separate themselves, get in a class of their own, and since we love controversy here on the Sports Mix, Jesse, let's go ahead and rain down the top 4 boys teams that you like here in the area, beginning with number 4.
Absolutely. Well, here's the thing about these lists is that eventually they all play each other and we get to find out who the real winner is, and I can see how right or wrong I was. So, you know, don't at me, we'll figure it out. But number 4, do at me. I don't have Twitter anyway, so you can at me all you want. Number 4, Ontario boys. They had a tough opening night against Lexington, battled back against a good Norwalk team. I think they're still a young team, and they're going to match up with Clear Fork soon, probably for the MOAC championship. They're a good young team. I think they're one of those teams, they've not quite hit their top level yet. They're young, they're getting some experience, getting some good experience, but I expect them to be much better, probably come to end of September than they are right now, but I think they're heading in the right direction. Number 3, the area's only undefeated boys team, the Clear Fork Colts. Now, we've covered them a couple times. We have seen them look really good. We have seen them be inconsistent. We haven't seen them play a lot of tough competition yet. And I think that's the question for Clear Fork Colts is, what can you do when you face the Ontarios, the Ashlands, the Lexingtons? When you face some of these bigger local schools, how will you match up? Certainly they have an ability to score some goals. They have some speed, they have some skill. You know, they've got Luke Labak, who was making some tremendous plays when we covered the game against Mansfield the other night. I mean, he was all over the field making a lot of big plays for them. Can they do that in a big setting against a big local game conference championship maybe on the line. How will they show? You know, so far they've been inconsistent. We've seen them look really good at times. We've seen them struggle a little bit at times. How will they show against some of these big area teams? I'm excited to see what happens to the Clear Fork Colts. Number 2, now I would have almost always had these guys probably number 1 all year long, but the Lexington Minutemen at number 2. A little controversial, but they lost.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I talked to Coach Peter Tim, and he said, you know what, this is one of those things you would rather learn those lessons now than mid to late October when you learn that lesson, season's over. So certainly that's a tough loss to Ashland, but it's a loss where he thinks they learned a lot of lessons from it. And I think if you're Lexington, here's what you have to remember. Because of your program success, every game you play is every team's biggest game. And so number 1 is the Ashland Arrows. Now, I talked to the Ashland Arrows coach about the Lexington game, and he said his guys had countdowns on their phone until the kickoff time of the Lexington game.
Ooh-wee.
And so that's the mentality. If you're Lexington, that's what you got to understand. Everybody wants that game. Everybody's looking for that game. So Ashland, I got you at number 1. They're 2-1-1. They've played a tough opening schedule, tough couple of games there. Lexington was in the Final Four. Big Walnut, who's got a really good team this year. Some other big opponents. I mean, they've got a tough schedule. So if they can end up with a good record at the end of the season, we're going to see this is a pretty good team. Now, Coach said that they're young, they're a little inexperienced, but what a great way to get experience against the likes of Lexington, Big Walnut, Findlay, some of the schools that Ashland will be playing. So that is my top 4 for the boys this week.
And leaving it at 4 because you haven't seen enough from some of the other teams, the fringe area squads that need to kind of work their way into the top 5. So we'll have maybe 5 teams next week. We'll see. For the ladies, I'm pretty sure where you're going to go with number 1, but let's see who fills in at the rest of the spots. Let's begin at number 5.
Well, actually, let's do an honorable mention.
Oh, sure.
Honorable mention. I haven't seen them play yet, but they have a record and some impressive statistics. The Crestview Cougars, 5-0, have not given up a goal in 5 games. Now, their schedule's not super difficult, but they're doing what they need to do at this point in the season. So they've got a couple upcoming conference games with Mansfield Christian and some other teams. I think I'm going to give them a good game. But honorable mention right now, only because I haven't seen them play a tough, difficult game yet. But I like where they're trending right now. They lost a lot of players from their team last year, very successful team. But they're doing a lot of good things still early in the season. So honorable mention, Crestview. Number 5, the Clear Fork Colts.
Okay.
Clear Fork opens with a brutal schedule. Open up with state runner-up Madison,
right,
and then Worcester, and then Lexington. And so they're 1-2. They're not scoring a lot of goals right now, but I think it's a young team that's just going to keep getting better and better. So I like where Clear Fork is heading. I think they've got the players to be able to be a pretty competitive team, especially come tournament time. I would not want to match up with Clear Fork. Number 3 is the Mansfield Christian Flames. This is a young team. They're scoring a lot of goals. I think their lowest scoring goal so far is 4 goals in a game. So, I mean, they're putting some numbers on the scoreboard right now. They've got a lot of young players, a lot of sophomores that are contributing at a high level. Abby Little, 8 goals and assists. I mean, really just doing a lot of good things for the program there. I'm excited to see. They're kind of in that same Crestview scenario. They've not played a lot of great teams yet, but they've got one coming up on the OH.Report next week, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But Mansfield Christian girls, I think, are trending in the right direction. Number 3, the Ashland Arrows. We saw them play the Madison Rams, and they are a good team. And they had a killer schedule. They started off with Anthony Wayne, and then Madison, and then Clay. Ended up being 2-1 through all of that. And I think when we covered that Madison game, it was one of those games where they had some real legitimate scoring opportunities to really get on the board and even make it, whether it's a closer game or even come out with a win. So that is a team, I think they're dangerous. You know, the more they play, the better they're going to be. And you talk about some of that preseason stuff. That's your first couple of experiences where state-ranked teams going at it. So I think Ashland is a very good team. Number 2, the Ontario Warriors. They are a good kind of under-the-radar team right now. They're scoring some goals. They're winning some big games. They're going to be tested probably the next 2 weeks. We're going to see how good Ontario really is. They've got games against Ashland, games against Madison coming up. So there's going to be some fun games in girls soccer in the next couple of weeks in our area to kind of watch out and really see who's going to rise to the top. Will anyone dethrone number 1, the Lady Rams?
Come on.
They have just been cruising right now, and we've covered some of their games, and we knew they were going to be good. What we didn't know is how good some of the freshmen were going to be. And so we saw the likes of Nevaeh Lewis, a hat trick in her first half, absolutely phenomenal debut. But other freshmen also contributed as well. They got some other players back. This team they're not quite peaking yet, and they're going to keep getting better and better and better. So right around October, I would want nothing to do with Madison. I mean, they have so many players, so many ways to score, so many ways to beat you, that I think this is a team you have to avoid come tournament time, is the Madison Lady Rams.
I am pretty shocked, actually. I think that they're better this year than last year. They graduated about 3 seniors that were pretty good contributors, but the freshman class that they had come up, and then some of the younger players that you mentioned that have just got better from maybe their sophomore to their junior year, that this is easily the most dangerous team in the area, Jesse. It's not close. And they probably have someone who you're going to mention right now. Top individual performers that you've seen up to this point would be who?
Yeah, certainly. Madison's got 2 players, I think, that have been phenomenal so far. Certainly Nevaeh Lewis, we talked about, 4 goals in the first couple of games, 3 in her first half debut. What a fun statistic that is. Obviously, Taylor Huff scoring her 100th career goal, an incredible statistic, knowing she's working on breaking the all-time assist record for the state as well. I mean, those statistics alone are impressive. So I think the Madison players, there's other players on that Madison team that make them great, but those 2 specifically are scoring some goals and they're just doing a really good job at that. I think Kyla Spencer for Ontario has got some scoring ability and really makes teams kind of game plan around her to make sure she's not getting touches in dangerous areas of the field. So I think those 3 for the girls. Abby Little from Mansfield Christian, she's scoring a lot of goals as well. There's some good goal-scoring girls around the area.
And young. That's 2 sophomores and a couple of freshmen.
Absolutely, right? There are some young players around here. Girls soccer in the area is going to be in good hands for a while. It's going to be fun to watch. Fun to watch these young players continue to grow and get better. To think about that, you can come in as a freshman and do some of the things we're seeing, and then know you're only going to get better from here is really an exciting thing. For the boys, I think certainly Ryan Parker, he's had an impressive career, we'll say, at Lexington, but he started off the game against Ontario and some other games. He scores goals, but also he's setting guys up this year. He's got a couple assists already, so I think he's a playmaker for Lexington that he's going to help take them to that next level. Obviously they were disappointed in their final game last year and the state runner-up or state Final Four, and their goal is to get back to that state championship. But they've got Bay coming up, who is going to be very upset at the way some of those games ended last year against Lexington. So we're going to find out kind of that ability of that Lexington team. They took a tough loss against Ashland. Are they going to be resilient enough to battle back and to kind of persevere and to start winning some tough, close games? So I think Ryan Parker for the boys, Luke Labaki for Clear Fork, to me is just a fun player to watch. Confident with the ball, a playmaker. We saw him score a couple goals, but it's the assists that I like. Getting the ball in the box, going at defenders, making defenders commit to him, and just finding guys in the box. So I love what Luke Labaki is doing at Clear Fork right now.
Yeah, great choices there. A lot of great individual talent here in this area. And now, how about time for a free kick, Jesse? Because we boot it right off the laces around that paywall. We bring you live high school soccer free of charge on our Facebook and our YouTube. And we got a couple games coming up next week that I know you're excited about. Loudonville at Crestview. We get to see if the Cougars are for real.
Yeah, could they get past that honorable mention and maybe make the top 5? Statistically, they've got some impressive statistics. So if they keep doing that, listen, if you don't give up any goals 6 or 7 games in the season, people are going to notice that. And so far, that's the rhythm they're on right now. The other game, number 4 against number 5, Mansfield Christian, Clear Fork. It is going to be a battle. A lot of young players, a lot of players who played together at the club level, and now they're going to compete at the high school level. 2 good coaches, 2 good programs. It is going to be a fun Saturday afternoon on the OH Report with Mansfield Christian and Clear Fork.
You can catch me and Jesse Ryder on the call, so make sure that you tune in. Just keep it locked and loaded right here on the OH Report all the time. All right, that's it for the Soccer Locker. We're going to send it back over to the boys on the couch. Well, here I am, back from the Soccer Locker. Good stuff with Jesse, as always. Interesting top 5 for girls, and then the boys, just 4. We'll see if someone can fit in on that 5th peg as the season progresses. All right, gentlemen, Jake Furr back with me along with Travis Berardi. We're going to finish this thing up with some American pigskin. Let's talk about high school football. We're all going to be in a stadium this weekend, and we're ready to get you guys pumped up at home. First, Jake, we're going to begin with your game, Lucas, at Ontario. Let's take a look. Cubs going head-to-head with Ontario on the road on Friday night. Jake Furr is going to be in the building for the Mansfield News Journal, so I just got to hear Jake's take, man. What's your thoughts?
I'm excited about this one. I mean, this is a throwback to the old NCC days when these teams always met. And it seemed like Ontario was always beating up on the little brother of Lucas. So, but this isn't the little brother Lucas anymore, man. They came out and put up 18 on Clear Fork and played some very good defense against that Clear Fork team. So, and then Ontario, I know we talked a little bit about it earlier, but Ontario kind of gave Shelby a scare. They had the ball down 7 late in the fourth quarter, driving, and just couldn't quite get it across. So, I mean, it's going to be two really good teams going at it here, and two completely opposite teams. I mean, you have Lucas, who just runs the ball every single play. I mean, just 3 yards in a cloud of dust, as they say. So, and then you have Ontario, who has they have a ton of speed on the outside. I don't know if I've seen an Ontario team with that much speed on the outside. So they're going to be throwing it to the edges and trying to get some sweeps going. So, man, I'm so excited for this game because I knew Ontario was going to be better than they have been in the past, and I kind of knew Lucas was going to be, right there as they keep, reloading instead of rebuilding. So, but I expect a very good game, and with the way that Ontario stopped the run against Shelby, held Owen Fisher to 67 yards. I mean, the run game, that's Lucas. So I wondered if that'll translate into this one, because if it does, that's going to open up a lot of different things for Ontario to do. But the speed, I hope that Lucas can match the speed and give Ontario a game. We'll see how it goes, but it should be a lot of fun and kind of a throwback, an old school game that we haven't seen in a while.
Dude, I kind of forgot about the NCC. Those were some good matchups back in the day that we used to cover. So, and you're absolutely right. Ontario did seem like the much bigger school, because they are. They used to kind of beat up on little brother, but I feel like the programs are in a little bit different places right now, certainly with Scott Spittler taking the Cubs to what's going to be 7 straight playoff appearances this year. They beat Clear Fork on the road last week. Can the Colts bounce back against River Valley? Let's first get you hyped. So that's actually going to be my game this week. I'm going to be over there in the Valley, seeing if Dave Carroll and the boys can get the ship turned around and not go to 0-2 on the season, with River Valley coming to their place. That really fascinating, Jake, how you mentioned that the number one stunner for you was Galleon losing to River Valley. What type of team are these Vikings, really? The fact that they're going to have to go on the road, can they deal with that environment? Even though not jam-packed stands, it's a little bit different, but still, when it's not the home cooking, it's just a little bit different version of the football that you're normally used to playing when you're at home. So I am banking kind of on the Colts to look better this week than they did last week. I think Lucas kind of was more physical than them, which really surprised me. I did not know that the Cubs have those kind of athletes, but we're talking about the Colts here. They have so much speed on the outside, the perimeter, and they do have some good-looking guys up front on the line too. So I'm looking for the Colts to play a whole lot better this week. Let's wrap things up with our featured matchup that I can't wait to talk about. Northmore going on the road at East Knox. Get your popcorn ready for this. Strap on your safety belts, because you are about to get super excited for the game. Take it away.
In Howard, Ohio, nothing is given. It's earned. Devotion, tradition, dedication. A town full of 242 blue-collar, hard-working Bulldogs. A small pocket of Knox County whose hearts pump purple and white. Being the underdog isn't easy. However, the Bulldogs wear it like no other. Coming off of the best season since 2005, football isn't just a game in Howard. It's carrying the town on the front of their chest, defending Chet Looney Stadium and putting East Knox in the history books. There's only one question for now. Are you ready?
Stuff like that kind of gives you goosebumps, doesn't it? Shout out to our dynamic duo of Garrett Parlett and Storm Blunchley for putting that together. It's got me ready for some football, Travis. And you seen Northmore in person last week. They looked great at home, still haven't allowed a point. They've scored 34, but East Knox, man, did they bully around the Golden Knights last year. What are you expecting this game?
Well, Northmore, they're trying to get that revenge. 2 years ago, Highland was the only team that knocked them off. They finished second in the KMAC to Highland, 9-1 last year. You thought, oh, this might be Northmore's year. They have everybody back. But Galwitz and East Knox comes on down to the North Bloomfield Township, runs them off their own field. 48-0, I believe, was the score. They go 10-0. They win the KMAC. Northmore, once again, 9-1, finishes second. So Northmore, they're going to want some revenge here. And that running game, I mean, it's going to be one of the best games in the state. I'm going to say that right now. Not even in North Central Ohio, but for the smaller divisions, that's going to be one of the best games in the state, and that's our game of the week, and I cannot wait for us to put that game on and for that game to, just to show out, because you got two really good rushing teams. Northmore, multiple players that can run the ball well. You have Max Lauer, you have Marcus Cortez, who he has the Play of the Week nominee for us this week. And then you have East Knox, who they're riding the high from that state semifinal appearance, that regional championship from last year. So they're not going to bow down to any team, and they're on their home turf Friday night. So it's going to be an exciting one.
Yeah, Football Friday night is going to be awesome, and we got so many games coming your way. Like I mentioned, I'm going to be over at Clear Fork for their game against River Valley. Travis is actually going to be calling Ashland at home against Mount Vernon. You can catch Bruce Wyrick and Brian Harder on the call for that game of the week down in Howard, Ohio, East Knox versus Northmore. And then our other game is going to be Effie James and Andy Jardy at Arlen Field. Mansfield Senior looking to get their first win of the year against Columbus DeSales. Highlights coming as well from Shelby versus Pleasant, Lexington versus Worcester, and I already mentioned that game. But the Peanut Gallery, thank you for filling me in. All right, guys, thank you so much for coming in. Also, oh yeah, Lucas in Ontario, we're going to have highlights for too. Jake's going to be there. Make sure to read his article in the Mansfield News Journal. You can see Travis right here on the OH Report, and you see me, well, gosh, we're pretty much on every single day at this point right now, Trav. So just keep it locked in right here, and we'll see you all the time, everywhere. Peace out for now.